addition to the gunfire and indiscriminate attacks, the threat of chemical war looms over the city, leaving the locals, the innocent victims in this bloody infighting, to wonder what has happened to the world they once knew. This is Frank Bonneville, live from Ecuador.
I think we're so much better off here in New York than Ecuador. We've got wine, snacks, not being shot at.
You're a journalist at a local radio station.
It'd be something big in entertainment by now.
I'm chief sound engineer.
Ugh. You two make a good team.
You need to grow a pair
Of breasts.
balls.
Oh, sorry. It's because you said pair. Because I say pair of breasts, but I don't say pair of balls. I just say balls.
We're meant to go to Ecuador. We got as far as an apartment in New York, across the road from the radio station.
Live from Ecuador, Frank Bonneville has an exclusive.
The desert sand has brought the city to a standstill. The sky has changed color. The sun has all but disappeared.
I think we need more information, because I'm pretty sure sand isn't a big problem in Ecuador.
What I'm hearing from my sources is that the two correspondents have gone missing.
They're in serious danger.
Everyone's looking for us, which means we have to go to Ecuador for real.
Why do we have to go to Ecuador?
It's that or we go to jail.
Are they bulletproof vests?
Yeah, they are.
Where's they... Have you got bulletproof pants? Otherwise, what's the point?
Let's go.
We're not going.
We're going.
We're not going.
I'd like to appeal to the generosity of the American public. If each of you just give $1 for our heroes.
What are you doing?
The U.S. government won't send
I'm sending her $1
What for?
for the heroes.
Great idea.
Thanks, everybody. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Our pleasure.
Thanks so much for coming to talk about this movie. Congratulations. I got to watch it. It's hilarious. It's a perfect addition to the sort of Ricky Gervais oeuvre. Talk to me about where it came from. Actually, talk to me about casting, because the cast in this is perfect. And you're the writer-director. I'd imagine you want to be able to cast a lot of people alongside of you who can sort of handle the writing and do it very quickly so you can focus on a number of the other things that you're doing.
Well, I mean, the writing was basically done by the time we started casting. You know, it took a year or so, and then then you have to wait till you send the script out because you want to make sure someone wants it. And they did, luckily. In fact, it was going to be a studio film. It was like a great reaction, and there was a bidding war, and then Netflix came in at the end and said, we'll buy it all.
Really?
Yeah, we'll buy it out. Yeah, this was going to be a studio film. It was going to be, yeah.
So you sort of wrote it on spec and then sent it out to see who would want to make it.
Well, you've got to show them something, you know. So no, but and also you can get anything made. It's on what scale it's made, and do you get final edit? That's the tricky thing for me. That I want as many people to see my work as possible, but with no compromise. So usually to get final edit, I've had to go to fringe outlets. HBO instead of NBC, BBC Two instead of BBC One. And then Netflix comes along, and it's best of both worlds. No interference, and the sky's the limit. They got 70 million subscribers. And to answer your question, Eric was the first person I cast about a year before we started filming, wasn't it? Yeah. And I didn't know he had a comedy background. This is the thing. I thought he was this brooding sort of thespian, this serious action hero. I've seen him in Munich and Troy and...
So my agent must have done a great job not telling you that
I never knew.
Did your agent get the script and go, Eric?
We're at the same agency, and the agent failed to mention to you that I had a comedy.
Which was a good thing, because I didn't want someone coming in thinking they had to be funny and tell jokes, because all my characters are funny because they're not trying to be funny. I'm laughing at the blind spot usually. I'm laughing at the difference between what they see themselves and what we see them. So I wanted him to be a bit of a screw up and a man who takes himself too seriously. But it's great that he had the comic sense, but it's because he knew how to do that.
Well, it was kind of good for me. It was actually a relief once I found out that Ricky didn't know about the comedy background. It was actually a good thing, because it meant that I could just go in and relax, knowing that I just had to play Frank as Frank in order for it to be funny. And I knew there'd be nothing worse than someone coming in trying to play Frank for gags, because then there wouldn't have been as much room for the comedy,
It was the same as I did in Extras. The funny thing was, how they acted sort of pretentious or serious and didn't see that what they were saying was stupid. You know, that you've got to play it straight to be funny.
Well, you want someone who gets the joke, who gets
Of course,
what you're
yeah.
doing with the movie, so you can talk to them about where they're going as an actor, but you don't want someone who's coming in and going, when do I get to be funny? When do I get to do my funny thing?
But actually, the fact that he's obviously a good actor and he's got the comic sensibilities, we developed the relationship throughout filming the movie. It became much more of a buddy movie than it was going to be. It was going to be two people thrown into turmoil, but actually it was quite nice seeing them develop and get on and, you know.
So as you were shooting, you were kind of like, let's just add a little more to this scene and sort of and put a little more around us.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads, and it came in at 3 hours. There's an hour and a half that you don't see where, you know, you film too much. I film with 2 cameras, so we don't miss anything. You know, the continuity is there. We work fast, and I think it's a real actor's medium, I think, with 2 cameras, you know.
That's so interesting.
There's nowhere to hide too. That's the only bad. Like when you're with Ricky and he's obviously hilarious on set all day long. The problem with 2 cameras is when you're pissing yourself laughing, there is nowhere to hide, and the camera's always on you, and you're constantly like showing him your left shoulder and, you know, pretending you're doing reaction shots out there and waiting for you to.
But luckily, I ruin more takes than anyone I've ever met.
I was gonna ask that because one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is you breaking on The Office. Like the old bloopers of The Office are just. I mean, if I'm ever in a bad mood, I can kind of just put those on and the rest of the day is going to be okay.
Well, I think it has to be fun. I think if you're stressed and you're thinking this isn't working and no one's laughing, I mean, you've got no reference point, you know? It's like, it's bad enough anyway when you're making something in private. It's not like stand-up. You go out with stand-up, and if they laugh, that bit stays in. If they don't laugh, it goes. So after 50 shows, you've got the perfect hour, you know? Whereas with this, you're second-guessing. And so it's good to, I think if everyone's laughing, it's fun, there must be something there. So it sort of all goes on screen, really.
Right. This is kind of a silly question, but just in response to that, you know, when you are on set as opposed to stand-up, no one is really laughing because they kind of can't laugh. You can't really break the take. The crew can't really break the take either. So is that when you start second-guessing?
Well, they do, and I think the more I do, the more people are relaxed to realise that they're not going to get in trouble if they laugh. No one shouts at someone who accidentally puts the boom mic in. It's not they don't do it on purpose, you know? And
You're not that kind of director.
We don't laugh on purpose. We don't ruin a take on purpose. It's sometimes you can't do it. And honestly, there's times when I think, I'm never going to get this. It gets worse and worse when you're approaching the word that you find funny or a look. I'm awful. If someone turns around, I laugh. So I have to, like a child, like if the scene has to start with someone looking at me, I'm done. That's it. It's all over. And then you start realizing the absurdity of it all. Yeah. And the more serious something's meant to be,
When the crew gets serious, when the first AD starts going, hey guys, we got like 5 minutes to lunch, we really got to get this.
I know.
We really got to get this. It's like, now is no chance. There is now no chance. We are going over now.
Well, it's suddenly we're back at school where we're the children and the teacher says, what, you find that funny? Of course I do. Of course I do.
Did your character change at all over the course of filming? Because what I love about your character so much is that he's completely different than the setup. The setup for your character is almost this Bond-esque, suave reporter, and without giving too much away at all, that sort of shifts and we could sort of see him for who he really is.
We made him a bit angrier, as you know, as Ricky was saying earlier. You know, when we started sort of mucking around and trying to find what works and what doesn't. Ricky found it humorous when Frank got really, really angry at him, and the meaner I got and the angrier I got, the funnier it sort of became. So that developed during filming. He was as cocky and he was as annoying as he is, but he was less mean, I think, in the script than he is in the film.
Yeah, and I think it's important that when he's meant to be James Bond-esque, he's still a flawed character. Yeah. He's still a man out of time. He's still a bit 80s. He's still a bit sort of, you know, aftershave advert.
He's kind of a screw-up himself.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. Yeah, he's not as cool as he thinks he is, you know.
Or as your character thinks he is as well.
Well, it's the opposite. He's like, he thinks he's great, but he's angry he hasn't made it. I was totally happy with being an underachiever. I didn't know I was an underachiever until my wife tells me, you know, and so... And I look up to him, I think he's great, and it's unrequited, he thinks I'm an idiot. So straight away, it's that, you know.
Who would you define as the straight man in this buddy comedy? Most buddy comedies have a straight man, and I think what's interesting about this is that from my perspective, it starts with you as the straight man, and I think it kind of shifts to you as more of the straight man?
I think everyone's a straight man in this. I don't think there's a clown. I think we're laughing at people taking themselves seriously or not meaning to be funny. I think someone trying to be funny, clowning, it's not as funny as someone who wants to take themselves deadly seriously.
Is that
Trump is not trying to make us laugh, but it's hilarious.
Arguable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't live here. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry. And what about casting Vera Farmiga? I've never seen Vera Farmiga do anything like this. She's so funny.
Every moment is brilliant, and it's so funny because she's meant to sort of epitomise what's wrong with the world today. That narcissistic person who thinks they deserve to be famous. Everyone wants to be a singer now. Everyone thinks that they can just be famous, and she's spoiled and she demands it. But she did it so well that her cruelty is funny. It's like when she insults me, it's really funny because she does it with such sort of style. And it's like she's got child rights. She's like an adolescent. Kids say things that they're cruel, but they don't mean to be cruel.
Oh, yeah,
they just
know.
They walk into a party and they go, "This is boring." And you go, "Okay, cut." She just says what's on her mind because she's sort of spoiled.
Right.
And she was brilliant. She was fantastic. All the cast are brilliant.
Ellie McDonald as well. She's
fantastic.
amazing,
Yeah. And she's probably a bit more of a clown. She's a bit of a putz, and she gets nervous. There's a scene where Vera's insulting her, and she spills the wine, and it's like one of my favourite bits because she's sort of put upon, and she's sort of hardworking and shy. She's the opposite of Vera's character in a way.
And the one thing that I like about that you did with Vera's character, as much as you say that she is supposed to represent a lot of what's wrong with our culture now, Eric at a certain point adds a layer for her, which is in the sense that you are a disappointment for her character. And that to a certain degree, she's reacting and responding to that. And I like that with this movie, most comedies would just have the flaw of the person as the funny thing, but you're always kind of, I don't want to say undercutting those flaws, but you're also sort of layering those flaws to give them just a twinkle of like real humanity.
It's because everyone's three-dimensional. Good people do bad things sometimes. Bad people do good things sometimes. We're all different circumstances. We all change, and I like the ambiguity of the morality in pieces. Like even Eric's character has just slept with someone. He knew she was married, but as he says, well, it's not as bad as her because he didn't promise to be faithful to this guy. Do you know?
I agree with that, actually.
Do you know what I mean? And I thought the funny thing was they're having an argument after they've just slept together. They're having this moral dilemma in the corridor, and so it's little things like that. But
is that kind of one of the things that going from, so this got pitched around and went to studios and then Netflix picked it up. With Netflix, it seems like at that point, they take your script, you're almost a fast track into production, right? There's no real long development period. Whereas if a studio bought the script, there might have been a development period and they might have been like, well, why does the character have to...
Well, they did. We were actually going to film it. We had the dates and the films and it greenlit by a studio. Netflix came in and stole it from everyone and made them an offer they couldn't refuse, and us. So it was already happening, and Netflix wanted this as their one of their first feature films. And what's great about Netflix is I think it'll see a return of the auteur because we don't have to make a movie that will get lowest common denominator. Everyone comes along for the first week, and everyone is sort of okay for everyone. It's not focus group to death. We didn't focus group it. It's an old-fashioned sort of way movies used to be made. So I think that it's really the best of both worlds.
It's a dream for actors, and I know I speak on behalf of all the cast, because when you sign up to do a movie that Ricky's written and is directing, you want to go and do Ricky's movie. You don't want to go and do a focus group movie. You don't want to do a movie that then gets a million notes. The dream, as actors going to work with interesting directors, is that they have a point of view, they have a style, and that's what you want to be a part of. So it was great for all of us because, especially working with Ricky on the set and him being the director as well, it's so immediate. There's no middleman. There's no him going off explaining to the director or awkward moments of, I know Ricky's idea is funnier than the director's idea, you know what I mean? So
no one likes
it's
behind
pure.
the video village with Ricky sort of whispering in Ricky's ear and him changing his opinion because of it.
No, we work fast. I don't have to ask anyone's opinion if I can change them. I've been with the script for a year anyway, so I know it all. We work. But what's really exciting as well for a filmmaker is knowing that people are going to see your film. Yeah. So you can get final edit, and it can be a Pyrrhic victory because they can say, well, it's so fringe that we're not going to put it out. We're going to put it out in 3 cinemas, you know. Whereas now I've made the film I wanted. I'm very proud of it, and people might as well watch it. It's in their homes.
The top of Netflix when I go to Netflix on Friday.
So I don't. It's not. I can't control whether people like it or not, but at least you know people are going to watch your film and have an opinion on it, and that's exciting. It must be so demoralizing to work to get final edit on something and then 10 people see it ever. You know, that must be depressing.
How do you work as a writer, star, and director? You've been doing this for an extended period of time now. You've had co-directors here and there on projects, but you are the sole writer and director on this. Do you have people on set whose eyeballs you trust as well for when you're on frame, or do you, at this point, sort of know exactly what's...
No, it's all collaborative. You know, the people. It's just that you need sort of one person to either take on the idea or not. That's the problem for me. That you know, that I want to decide whether I want your opinion or not. Not that I don't want. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
You know,
someone gives you that opinion that you haven't decided on. It slows things down a little bit.
And you know, I think my girlfriend probably hears of all my ideas first. I run things by her, and she actually helped me script edit this as well. So and so there's when I do TV. I work with the same producer and the same team, so you know they trust you. You know, it's just a shortcut, really. It's not that I don't want to hear anyone's opinion. It's just that I want to make the final decision whether I take anything on board or not. That's the exciting thing, that you have that choice, because when things are imposed upon you, it's not your movie. It's just not your movie. If someone says, "Well, you've got to do this."
Have you had that happen to you at all?
No. I've as I say, I've made sure that doesn't happen. But to get that freedom, the compromise is fringe outlets. Right. You know, if I made the American office straight for NBC, I probably wouldn't have got the freedom I did when I made my own version first for BBC Two.
Yeah, I don't think the American office, I mean, I think this is kind of what you're saying. I don't think the American office would have had the freedom that it eventually had if the first office had.
You've got to show it works first. If I'd have sent off the script to the office, I think it would still be in someone's drawer. But I made a little demo in the office I used to work in, so they got it straight away. You know, middle-aged guy says unfunny thing, looks awkward to camera, touches tie, no one laughs. That doesn't leap off the page. But when you see it, oh, I get it. He thinks he's funny and he isn't. Right. It's a fake dog. Then you get it. You can see it. Because if 1,000 people read your script, there'd be 1,000 different ideas of how that would look. You've got to. It's just yours that counts.
I have to ask, because the office did come up. The return of David Brent is coming. Did I read this correctly?
It's already filmed. It's called Life on the Road. Thank you.
I know we're here talking about Special Correspondents, but this is an amazing thing.
I've filmed it. I finished this, and never do this, okay? Never be doing post-production on one movie and pre-production on another. It's mental. It's nearly impossible. So I finished filming this. I went to edit it. Then I started pre-production on the David Brent movie. I delivered this, and 1 week later I started filming the Brent movie before Christmas. I've just finished editing it. We're just doing the final touches now. It's out in August. It's called Life on the Road, and it's about what David Brent's doing now. So he's 15 years older. He's in his 50s. He's selling toiletry products as a rep, and he's never given up the dream of being a rock star. So he cashes in pensions, and he pays for session musicians, and he books some terrible gigs, and he thinks he's going to be signed. It's that again. He's been sold a lie that, you know, you can be famous, and it's tragic and funny.
How often do you find that? I think so often people misunderstand your characters, and even the characters in Special Correspondents, as those that are sort of. It's their fault that they misunderstand something, but it's actually the culture that has kind of sold them a lie as to who they can be. They're constantly sort of battling the limitations that they don't know they have because culture sold them celebrity, sold them that anybody can make it.
No, we're all victims. There was a survey recently amongst 10-year-olds, okay, university survey. They asked 10-year-olds what they wanted to be when they grew up, and they said famous. It's been 40 years of this, that it's a shortcut. And now it's worse. It's 15 years of people being famous for nothing. People being famous for just being themselves. People living their life like an open wound. They're letting cameras film everything, and they're famous for that, and they're rewarded for it. And it must look so easy to get. It's like next we're gonna have celebrity enema. It's crazy.
I know you're making a point, but please God, let us get celebrity enema.
Are you in? Yeah.
Eric, we talked about your comedy background a little bit. We brushed up against it, but how did you have a comedy background, and how did that transition to stuff like Hulk, stuff like Troy, stuff like those other films?
Well, in Australia, I started out as a stand-up. I did stand-up for about 10 or 12 years, and then about 3 years...
Stand-up before Chopper?
Yeah, and then after Chopper even.
Wow.
Yeah, and then transitioned into sketch comedy. Worked in television sketch comedy in Australia and had my own sketch comedy show for a while. And then it wasn't until many years later that I kind of got bored and I kind of got sick of the sound of my own voice and wanted to try something different, and transitioned into drama. Got very lucky. Got a good sort of opportunity early on, which convinced people to give me another opportunity, and sort of one thing led to another. And yeah, Chopper was the first thing, and then.
But I could see Andrew Dominic is the director of Chopper, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I could see him possibly choosing you, knowing that you had a stand-up background in some capacity.
Again, he had no idea.
He had no idea.
Yeah, he wasn't a
I'm wrong.
TV watcher, and it was actually the casting agent and Mark Chopper Reed themselves that suggested me. It was kind of bizarre, and so that's how I got the audition in the first place. But Andrew wasn't a TV watcher, didn't really know my comedy background, and so just sort of cast me off the audition. So it was just that, and then it just kind of snowballed. And then obviously at that point I wasn't going to sort of try and pull a rabbit out of my hat and sort of go, well, I know you've seen me in Troy, but watch this, I'll do a comedy now. Like it wasn't in me, so what's
You were in
that?
Judd Apatow's funny.
Yeah, but that was many years later. Yeah, I was in no kind of rush. I was just kind of enjoying what I was doing, and as I said, I'd sort of done a lot of it back home, and people are like, but you got to show that here, and I'm like, I don't really, it doesn't bother me, like there's a body of work back there. I've done it. I don't really feel like I have to do it again straight away. So I always felt like if something came along that was relevant to the sort of style of performance that I liked, I would do it. But the problem for me was that general, broad kind of comedies weren't really my thing. That wasn't really my style. It's more this kind of world that kind of suits, what I can do or what I'd like to do. So this was an easy yes.
I just want to say, if you're in the audience and you've never seen Eric Bana in Chopper, it's available somewhere. You should check it out. It's an incredible early performance of yours. Yeah, I think we have time for audience questions. Anyone have any questions out there?
Hi. So first, I must say, big fan. Before I get to my question, I just have to say, I had emergency stomach surgery a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine had recommended to cheer myself up that I watch The Office UK, and I was just so happy that I did, because just seeing David Brent made me feel so much better about myself.
That's exactly. That's exactly right. I think that's why we watch real documentaries, like the reality shows. We go, oh my God, we're laughing at, when we watch things like Big Brother, we don't want to see 12 intelligent people getting along. We want to fight, No, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, what my question was what exactly do you think, and this is for both of you, like your favorite exact sort of character trait in the movie? Because it sounds like your characters change in the film as it progresses.
Yeah, I think there has to be an emotional journey for the characters, or there isn't one for the audience. And I think in fiction, comedy or drama, we create our own fictional heroes and villains as role play for the soul, so no one actually gets hurt. So you live out all these morals and these fights, and hopefully our villains get their comeuppance, or they redeem themselves, which is just as good. We love that. I think we're good people deep down. We like someone doing well and or apologizing. You know, we like those morality tales. And I think we want our heroes to get some sort of satisfaction or even reward. It's almost like we improve on life. We make our own heaven and hell. We say, no, you were good, so well done. You were bad, you get a change. We're suddenly God. Do you know what I mean? We sort of and people, if it's done well, people feel good. They feel good. We want justice deep down. We want justice.
I think we also want, I don't want to interrupt him, I'm sorry. I think we also want, to a certain degree, I feel like you've always been a believer in romance as well. All of your projects have a really, for the most part, I believe, have a really sort of truthful feeling of romance.
I've never understood that I get this, I'm the terrible cynic, this shock comedian who, crawl.
How could they possibly think that?
I know.
They possibly think that.
I think it comes from me insulting millionaire actors, which is really sad, isn't it? No, but I've always, it's always, I've always liked a romance. You know, I want people to find, it's always quite existential, I think. You know, The Office was about being sort of 40 and were you leading a good life and boy meets girl and all those things. Derek was about being 80, so, it was more gravitas. But I think I've always done something that's quite people, thinking about what's the point of life and have I led a good one? I think we all do. Even if we don't literally sit down and think about it every day, deep down we sort of wonder, first we wonder, is this all there is? And then if you're me, the answer is, I think, yes. So
pathos is a very underappreciated thing in comedy in general, and that's what I think Ricky does best, is pathos, and I think it's what connects people to the material, even on a subconscious level and on a conscious level. Because some of the best parts of The Office are the bits that make you feel so depressed, but it's still funny, and that's what I think pathos. When comedy's great, it always has a good level of that.
I agree, and I think comedy at its best says we're all idiots sometimes, and that's okay. That's okay. It's fine. I like people identifying with it, because people. You look at Brent and you either go, "Oh, that's phew. I'm so glad I'm not like that," or you go, "Oh, I've done that," and they're both good. Yeah. They're both okay. Yeah.
Next question.
We're going to take our next question from an online viewer. So Becca would like to know for Ricky, can you talk a little about your support for animal charities?
Yeah, I've never understood cruelty to animals. I never got it. I was never that kid who burnt an ant with a magnifying glass or pulled wings off a fly or see what would happen if you kicked a dog. I never got it. I thought they were us. I've never understood. I can't. People who don't have empathy with animals, I don't think they have empathy. I don't think you can say I care for people but not animals. I don't get it. We are animals. So I've always been fascinated with that. I can't bear the idea of an animal in pain because it hasn't got a voice. It can't tell me. So I don't know. I just think it's, and my support for them is, to be honest, because I'm in a privileged position. I'm famous and I've got lots of Twitter followers. The least I can do. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I do a lot.
Do you ever have trouble? You're so good at skewering so many elements of fame, and I think that comes across in this movie with Vera Farmiga's character. When you go out and you actually have a charity that you're sincere about, do you have parts of yourself that you're kind of like, okay, how do I talk about this without coming across like a famous person trying to talk about their charity? Like, do you get insecure about that, or sort of in your own head about stuff like that, considering you skewer it so often?
Well, I think there's sort of two. When you're famous, there's two yous. There's the public, perception and roles, and that's a sliding scale. Because even my stand-up, it sounds like me, and but it's still a persona. It's still a brasher, more arrogant, sometimes more stupid version of me. Even now, I'm not acting like I would at home. I'd be drunk in my pants. But and then there's the real you, and I think Twitter's probably more me because it's immediate. It's your thoughts. That's what's good and bad about Twitter. That you spew out your. That's why people get in trouble, because it's out there. They go, oh, why didn't I just think for a minute before I tweeted that? But I quite like that. But Twitter, at its absolute best, is a very fast way of awareness. 10 years ago, it would take you a year to get 100,000 signatures standing outside, to get something. And now, if you do it right, you can get that in a few hours, and it can get to government, and it can change laws. So I think that that's Twitter at its best, doing something good like that. But there's people that actually go out to Africa and fight poachers. There's people that go to China and get moon bears released from biofarms. I tweet. I really don't do much. I don't do much. I just get angry quickly.
Guys, I have to let you go. I want to say Special Correspondents is this Friday on Netflix, right?
Yes.
It is so funny. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Congratulations on the movie. Thank you.